friends. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Success Factor podcast. I'm the host, Trent Christensen. In this episode, I interview Michael Whitehouse. He's actually the host of the podcast called The Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast. He is well connected. He lives in Connecticut. He knows more people than I could ever even imagine of knowing. He has leveraged all of his networks, all of his contacts that he's made in his profession and his life to be able to go and create a concierge program that you can subscribe to and hire him as a coach or a mentor or a professional networker. And he can introduce you to anyone that you can think of or any other person that has the skills, expertise, background, or connections with someone that you need for your business, for your own advancement of your own personal interests, hobbies, profession, whatever it may be. This is a great episode. We definitely connected. We had some good things to say about overall networking and how that's a key to success. And without further ado, check it out. Thank you. There's the man, the myth, and the legend, Mr. Michael Whitehouse. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain. You know, I was thinking about it since the first time we talked, and you remind me of Jay Leno. You have this Jay Leno look to you, and it's like you deserve your own show. And I think that's like amazing. It's a good skill you got.
The good thing I've got so many shows then. I mean, none of them are as big as Jay Leno's show, but I have the morning motivation. I've got Power 5, got the Power Lunch Live Roundtable, and coming soon, the Joint Venture Insider Show.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do? Is this like your full-time thing? I mean, do you mostly handle like podcasts each week, or do you do more kind of coaching? Like, how do you balance your week out?
So most of my business is my networking concierge service.
Okay.
And I do some coaching.
Explain that. Explain what that is.
Okay. So my networking concierge is people who need to network but lack either the time or the inclination, hire me to do it for them. So I network compulsively. I used to joke that I networked compulsively, and apparently now that I've learned more about ADHD, I apparently actually compulsively network. Because with ADHD, your brain is driven to new experiences. You get that dopamine hit. So meeting new people is one of the things that makes the ADHD brain go, ooh. So I'm literally neurologically compelled to do more networking. So I'll meet 5, 10, 15, 20 people a week. And for my clients, they give me a list of what they're looking for and who they're looking to meet. And I will make that introduction for them if that's the right person. So I'll meet somebody, and I'll be talking to you, and I'll look at my whiteboard of clients. I should give that a fancier name. Maybe I should put something over it. This is whiteboard of clients. Anyway, I'll look at my whiteboard of clients, and I will say which of them needs to meet him, and then I will make those connections. And you know, some of it's for joint venture partners, some of it's a couple of them are for clients. I don't usually do a lot of direct client introductions. Sometimes it's for podcast guests, or it's for people who might get them on stages or services they need or whatever it is. I'm out there with their shopping list, their wish list of who they want to meet, and and I send them. And it's funny, when I first started, I was like, okay, I need to guarantee a certain number of introductions. I'll get you at least 10 a month or this. The feedback I've gotten, I've never had a client say, you're not sending me enough. I have had half of my clients say, you're sending me too many. They're all good, but there's too many of them. Could you dial it down? Or let's dial it in a bit, because they don't have the bandwidth to absorb as many introductions I can send them, because I'm meeting 12 people a week. Yeah. So if I'm sending them 14 a month, well, now they've got to schedule 2 extra hours in their week to meet with these people. And then there's probably follow-ups, and they got to do some kind of partnership or whatever. So, but yeah, my clients love it, because now they don't have to worry about, you need to network, you got to meet more people. So if you're doing 1,000 other things, networking falls away. You're like, I haven't met anyone new in the last 3 months. So they don't have to worry about it. They hire me. I send them a flow of good people.
I love it. I mean, how did you get into this? How did you start to build your network? I mean, first, where did you first develop the skill and the ability or the interest to go and network and get to know as many people? And then piggyback on that, when did you start to kind of monetize it and go, I could actually do this for a living and help people?
Well, let me go. That happens to be the first chapter of my book, is where I talk about that very story.
And the book is
The Guy Who Knows a Guy, revised edition.
I love it.
So it's funny because by the time that book had come out, I had not monetized networking at all. So I talk about how to network, assuming that you have some way to monetize that isn't just networking, because I didn't know how to monetize networking yet. That I discovered in the last, at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. But to your first question, how did I learn to network? Well, it all started way back in 2014. Do you remember 2014?
I certainly do. I know exactly what was going on then.
Back when everyone was like meeting in person, and if you wanted to talk to someone, you would either
Zoom was not even invented yet. It was like Skype or something, right?
Yeah. Skype was and nobody used Skype. That was like for corporate.
Right.
People just used a telephone. I think FaceTime may have been around then though. So anyway, I moved to Southeast Connecticut and I knew nobody. But I had a half-baked business idea, and my half-baked business idea required a full-on network. So I did not know how networking happened, but I knew where networking happened. So I jumped in. I went to networking events. And I went to any networking event I could find. Business after hours, business before hours. I'd go to a ribbon cutting. I'd go to a hair cutting. I'd go to the opening of an envelope. But there were people meeting together. I was there. Ignorance on fire. No technique, no strategy. I was just like, hi, I'm new. I'm Michael Whitehouse.
Yeah. Where did you find these? Where did you learn about these opportunities?
The first one I discovered, I had, I first found out about networking because I read the book Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. And that kind of gave me the idea of networking. And then I read, I think I discovered a BNI group. Someone I knew was in one, and local chamber of commerce. I heard that's where networking happened. So I did a bit when I was still in Massachusetts. But when I was in Connecticut here, before I moved to Groton, I went to a small networking group. I wasn't able to do much of it because of the jobs I was working. But when I was moving to Groton, someone I knew said, hey, the Eastern Connecticut Chamber of Commerce, that's the big chamber down there. So here's their website. Went to the website, found what events were happening. Actually went to a networking event the night before I moved down here. So went to the networking event, drove home, got the truck, drove down. And I started going to every event I could go to. And what I discovered within a few months was that I was connecting people of note to other people of note. The people who lived here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years who didn't know each other yet. I'm like, how do you not know each other? And it's because it's New England, where people don't tend to leave their little villages or, cross. I sometimes joke New Englanders are like vampires. They can't cross running water. So because I was able to cross bridges freely, I was a major connector. I'd be like, oh, do you know so-and-so New London? New London? That's like 3 miles away. That's on the other side of a river. What do you think? I have a boat? I sometimes a joke, like, they built a bridge like 100 years ago. You can just drive. You don't need the rowboat anymore. You just drive right over. But so I was making these connections and I realized I was doing something. I was like making something happen. And then I thought I could write that down because I know what I did. I started not knowing and then I started to be knowing. And basically I learned to network through brute force, trial and error, ignorance on fire, just did it. But the big pivot point was the pandemic, because I worked a series of jobs not worth noting. I've sold cars, I sold printing, I sold insurance. And when the pandemic came, I was selling advertising for a community magazine. 75% of my sales came from in-person networking.
Well, imagine that. And then, there you go. Boom. Later, you're like a professional networker.
Yeah. By October 2020, I was not selling ads for a community magazine because 75% of my sales came from in-person networking. And there weren't no in-person networking in the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
I had a choice. I could start over with this magazine that I liked, but it wasn't my calling.
Yeah.
And I'd spent 3 years building this up, painstakingly clawing one step to the next. And now I had to learn from scratch using an untested system instead of their 10-year-old proven system to build someone else's project Or if I'm going to work that hard, I might as well do my thing, whatever the heck my thing is. So I actually spent 2021 doing the thing I do know, networking, meeting lots of people. I launched the 3rd season of my podcast, which is focused on meeting successful people and asking them how they did it. And basically letting them mentor me on the air, which was really cool. And I paid my bills with Uber. I was the best connected Uber driver in town. But the business wasn't making money. And finally, the turning point was in November 2021. I was talking to Phil Palucha, who's a great coach, great podcaster. And I was trying to figure out, what is my high ticket offer? What is the, I knew how funnels worked. I knew how the sales process worked, but it ends with, and then they buy your $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 thing. And I had a bunch of knowledge and I had a bunch of connections. I'm like, I know somehow this duct tapes together into something that's worth a lot, but I don't know how these pieces plug together. And so we were talking about that. And then Phil said, Michael, some people get paid to make introductions. And the clouds parted and the angels sang and the lights shang down and the woodland creatures circled around me, and any other metaphor you want for this was an epiphany moment. And I was like, what? Tell me more. And he said, well, some people get a commission. Some people get paid per introduction. Some people get a retainer. Some people do a mix of the different things. And I was like, wow, I make introductions all the time and don't get paid. But I also know a lot of people who are fairly moneyed individuals and could probably use that. So I started talking to different people I knew and said, hey, I heard that some people get paid to make introductions. I want to do that. And I think I started by thinking about getting people on stages, being like a speaker concierge.
Yeah.
But then I realized I could just broaden it to networking concierge and pretty much be aware of where my network is.
Yeah.
So I'm not hiring people, if you want to get connected to Hollywood stars, I don't know them. If you want to get connected to DC politicians, I don't know them. In corporate CEOs, I don't know them. I know entrepreneurs. I know that space. And so I didn't want to be chasing in multiple directions. But once I zeroed that in, I spoke to the person who become my first client, and he's like, I could totally use that. How much do you want? And I'm like, I don't.
You're like, how about $20? And, oh wait, I should have asked for 200.
Yeah. Fortunately, I went straight to 4 figures, so I didn't back myself into a corner there.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So I went to a good, because I realized how much a single introduction for someone who's running a high 6, 7, even 8-figure business, one introduction could be worth tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, totally. Totally. Or it could be even bigger than that. I mean, like, for example, when I met you, I think one of your questions was, if I could make an introduction to you even before my first conversation with you, who would it be and why? And I think that was one of your Calendly questions, and without giving the name. Well, I guess we could say the name. Doesn't really matter. You
can say Calendly. I think that's like Zoom.
Well, the name of the person who I was saying, hey, you should introduce me to this person, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
If you actually knew that person and introduced me to that person, you could have transformed this podcast like overnight. I mean, some of those are pretty powerful introductions.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's funny. Most people will put, Tony Robbins, Gary Vee.
Yeah.
I've gotten a few who they don't shoot as high, but they're like, oh, who I really want to meet? There's someone up here. We have Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, the 2 big casinos in Connecticut. And I was going to be connected with someone who runs a cancer charity. And she wanted an introduction to the person who does charitable donations at Foxwoods. And so that's who she had there. I don't think she actually had the name. I think it's just whoever does charitable contributions at Foxwoods. I was like, oh, I know that person. There's a person whose specific job it is in the marketing department to find high profile charities to donate to. And, it was a collaboration. So I made that introduction right off. We actually ended up canceling the meeting because something came up or kids got sick or something.
Yeah.
I think we still haven't actually had that meeting, but I made the introduction because I knew what she was looking for. And I met her before, so we already had some credibility. But that's it gives you that starting point. So sometimes I've made introductions before we even meet off those questions.
That's really cool. I think that's awesome. Now, what has been the most powerful introduction that you've made so far that, has had a remarkable and profound impact?
that would assume I remember most of the introductions I make. And I don't.
I'm the same. I'm laughing because I'm the same way, man.
Yep. Well, and there's a lesson in that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, so I split networkers in philosophy to extrovert networkers and introvert networkers.
Mm-hmm.
And the introvert style of networking, this is the person who does the follow-up. They remember your birthday. They remember that you like golfing and ask how your last golf game went. They remember that you have kids and they ask you in the summer, how did your kids year go? And they often keep notes. They send cards, gifts. Introverts are totally better networkers. I'm an extrovert.
Yeah, same with me.
So with an introvert, I think, I'm not one, but I speculate, part of the reason why they keep such good records and build these relationships is each person they meet has a mental cost. It's tiring. It's not necessarily exhausting, but it's tiring. They don't want to have to meet too many people. So they meet fewer people and go deeper with those people.
Okay.
An extrovert loves meeting more people and doesn't have the need to delve into the relationship. So like for me, I meet somebody, I provide as much value as I can in that meeting. I'll make 2, 3, 4, not too many introductions. I've learned to rein it in. It takes time to send those emails. But I make a few introductions. I maybe give them some advice, share something I know. And I've probably met with 15 people over the last week. If you were like, I'll give you $100 for each person you can name that you've met in the last 7 days, you'd probably owe me $200 or $300.
Interesting.
Okay, they remember me. So
you just hit on something that's pretty fascinating to me, which is the introvert versus the extrovert. I'm an extrovert as well, and I think the introverts typically get groups or cliques together and stick with those. They stick with their known entities. They stick with their groups, right? The extroverts are comfortable going around and migrating to different groups and getting to know people. But you're spot on. Those people almost go from, they'd like thrive off the energy of meeting people. Same with what you touched on earlier. You enjoy the connection, the energy that comes with meeting someone new. And so you're just capitalizing on that and thriving on it. And this is all about knowing your skills, your strengths, your weaknesses, and what keeps you going and what your passion is. And your passion is to get that energy from one person to the next. And it doesn't matter if you go that much deeper because you already got the energy, right?
Yeah. Well, and beyond that, a key point you touched on is capitalizing on your strengths. So a lot of people get into, and this is where imposter syndrome comes from. They get into this focusing on their weak, and I used to. Because you read some books on connecting and they talk about you can't be a good networker if you can't remember names. If you can't remember names, you can't be a good networker. I'm like, well, that sucks for me. I must be a terrible networker. Because if you can't remember names, you're not trying hard enough. And like, maybe that's true. Or maybe the ADHD wire in my brain actually makes it really hard to remember names.
Absolutely.
But of course, neurotypicals love to say, you're not trying hard enough. So we're taught to be ashamed of our limitations and our difficulties. But instead, if you say, okay, what am I good at? What value do I provide? And so I don't worry about the fact that I'm not good at following up and sending cards and all that. And I've talked to people about that I've been on calls with them. And this is, I kind of seed this conversation, but I've made 2 or 3 introductions and given them pointed them to a website and given them a piece of advice. And we're talking about follow up or whatever. And they ask my follow up system. I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. And, if you're going to hate me afterwards, I'm not going to remember your birthday. And to be honest, if we meet again, I may or may not remember your name if I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm not going to send you a follow up card. I'm not going to send you a thank you note because I'm not good at that kind of stuff. But
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
but they're even like, and then they're like, but you just gave me 3 introductions, so you can stuff your thank you note. Just give me more introductions. Like you gave me real value, not the trappings of social obligation. Now, nothing against the trappings of social obligation for those who that's the value they provide to show how they care. I show how I care by being like, I'm going to introduce you to people I know. It's going to either solve your problems or help you make money or generally make your life better. That's all I got to give.
Yeah.
So I just give that, and people seem to like it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think you're on the money there. It's definitely a strength of yours. And people enjoy that. And it's good to just own up and be honest with yourself in front of others and to others about your strengths and weaknesses. And if you are not good with names, just tell people, hey, I probably won't remember your name. Or when I see you again, I'm asking your name, say, I know your face. I know we met. I just forgot your name.
Yep.
You know, and I'm horrible with names. I think that's all about vulnerability and authenticity. Just be real to who you are. Not everyone can do that.
Yep.
You reminded me of a few people I want to introduce you to. So when we're done with this, I'm going to have to bounce a couple introduction emails off and return some of your good grace and favors as well.
Yep. Yeah. Funny story about acknowledging the weaknesses. So I often schedule back to back, and sometimes what'll happen is, invariably 30-minute meeting. And I mean, at minute number 28 is when like the really interesting thing comes up. You're like, we're 20 minutes in.
I did that to you the first time we met.
You totally did. Yes.
And are you making fun of me right now? Or are you just saying this happens to you all the time?
All the time.
Okay. Yeah. Because it happens to me too.
All the time. And yeah, it just happened to happen with you also. But you're just kind of talking, and I don't know if it's because like, we're almost out of time, I should tell you this, or it's just you're going and at minute 26, we're like, let me tell you about the joint venture that you should be part of. Oh yeah, we should totally do that. Yes. So what do I need to do for that? And I'm like, you gotta get to the thing. So sometimes I might be 5 minutes late to a meeting. It's not disrespecting their time. It's not because I don't appreciate them. It's that if I don't schedule 30-minute meetings, I don't have enough hours in the week to meet as many people as I want to, and as want to meet me. If I tried to schedule buffers between, I would lose appointment slots. I mean, I can only fit about 12 to 15 appointments a week, assuming I don't have something like a podcast interview. I mean, we're after hours for my normal time, so this doesn't take up regular appointment slots.
Yeah, it's late there. It's like 7:30, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but my time is so constrained that I can't figure any algorithmic way to solve that problem other than maybe really like buckling down and being like, okay, it's 7:30, we gotta go. I'm out. We'll talk later. But because of the way my calendar's so busy, if we do that, then I'm like, hey, let's talk again. Cool. We'll talk in 6 months, like, or 6 weeks, 6 months, exaggerating. But I don't necessarily want to put it off. So I'm like, okay, I think we can squeeze this out in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So there was a guy that I met who is has somewhat a high opinion of himself, made a number of introductions, and he's a coach who teaches people, if someone is 3 minutes late to a meeting, cancel the meeting, never reschedule. They've disrespected you. You are too important.
That's rigid, man. That's really rigid.
So he introduced me to someone who I guess was 4 minutes late, 5 minutes late, whatever. They canceled, never came back, whatever. And he then messaged the entire group. He introduced me to 7 people on LinkedIn. He messaged this entire group and said, if he's late, cancel, never back. And I said, listen, I might be 5 minutes late. I'm very busy. And because, I was being transparent, like, this is what happened. This is why I'm back to back. And he went nuts. He is swearing, it's a disrespect, blah, blah, blah. Everyone just cancel your meetings with him. No point meeting with him. He's going to blah, blah, blah. Wow. And at first I'm like, oh man, yeah, maybe I need to get more organized. Maybe my ADHD is really hurting me here. And then I thought about it. When I meet with someone, I will on average make 1 to 2 introductions, sometimes 3 or 4. Sometimes we hit it off even more than that. We end up working together. Something good happens. But on average, and this is going to sound arrogant, but on average, I give more value than I receive. Because I'm a professional networker. So having a 1-to-1 meeting with a professional networker, you're going to come out ahead, because most likely I'm going to because I can do it quicker and easier. So,
well, it's kind of like a coach who does a free consult. Your consult is, I'm going to throw 3 or 4 names at you and show you what I can do. And then it's up to you to see the value and book with me, or retain my services. And
it's not even a sales strategy. It's just what I do. I did it long before I charged for it. So it's just what I do. I tend to give a lot of value. And again, I'm not like, I give so much value, I am so important. It's just
right.
and it's also like a coach. Coaches can't not coach. So you got to call a coach. and you suggest you might possibly have a problem, you're going to have a solution 30 minutes later, because that's what coaches do by instinct.
Absolutely.
So I was thinking about it, and that if I'm 4 minutes, 5 minutes late to the call, and so they cancel it and never talk to me, I just got 25 minutes to send emails, probably introductions from the last call, or catch up on whatever else I want, or maybe get a cup of water, and they get no introductions from me.
Wow.
Okay, that's not a punishment. That's just, I didn't meet, because some of the people I meet are amazing, and I would have been very upset if I'd missed out on the chance to meet them.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people I meet, I don't know who they're going to be. So I try to be on time. But I do the best I can. And, often people are late for me. 3, 4, 5, 6. My thought is, if you booked half an hour of my time, you've got half an hour of my time. And if I spend 15 of those 30 minutes sending emails with a little Zoom window in the corner waiting for you, okay, I've always got something I can do while I'm waiting for a Zoom call. And if you pop in 15 minutes late, we have a 15-minute call.
How many introductions do you make where you don't even know the person you're doing the introduction to? It's like on LinkedIn, it's a third or fourth level contact, not maybe someone you've directly spoken to.
I shouldn't say never. I can't think of, I do not, as a matter of course, make introductions to people I have not spoken to.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that it's firing blind. So
absolutely. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. There is a risk on both sides that I might, somehow find out that's a bad introduction.
Yeah.
And I've made, let me check my spreadsheet here. See, I'm super organized. I have a spreadsheet that has 3 columns, date, name, super organized. But it lets me tell you that since November, I have made 786 introductions.
That's crazy, dude. You have almost 3,000 connections on LinkedIn alone. Yes. That's just one platform, but that's a pretty remarkable connection count.
Yep. Now, I can't say that I know all of them, because a lot of people just send me connection requests, and I generally accept them and then see what happens. Sometimes they pitch me something. Sometimes they don't. That's the weirdest thing. When you get the connection request and you never hear from them, and you're like, hi, welcome to the party. I got content. Hope you like it.
You know what you could do? You could almost pool together your network and create almost like a, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like an angel investor fund. And you guys could have voting, you could call it a network or something. You could have voting on what ideas get funding, and then everyone puts in a share or a pro rata amount into the pool, and you could build this massively powerful, almost like the concept of like a bunch of workers in a company going and getting lotto tickets, and there's power in numbers, right? There's strength in numbers. And you could put together some amazing business investing or empowering platforms that give people a shot based upon your network. And that would be amazing. You could transform this entire network of yours and make revenue in different ways. That idea sounds
really complicated. I like it, but it sounds really complicated to get, like, if it's actually like VC funding.
Well, it would be like concept backing. Like if I came to you and I said, hey, I got this podcast idea, we're calling it active casting. And you're like, tell me more. And then you go back to your people, maybe a committee, and say, all right, here's the 10 things I heard this week. And then maybe you guys vote on it. And then you go to the overall population, and then you come up with, hey, you know what? Let's fund this guy.
Well, I've heard of an idea like that where you get a group together. I think in this case, it was in a local community. It was 10 people, and every month they put in $100. And then anyone could nominate a cause or a project or whatever. They voted on it. The winning one got $1,000. They just collectively donated it. So it wasn't an investment. They didn't track it or whatever. It was just, hey, we want to build flower boxes at the library. And so if that's the idea that won, then they would just write a check for $1,000. Those people. Yeah. So there's no bureaucracy. It's just like, here's money, do a thing.
And
that might be, the challenge is coordinating the amount of money, because there's like tax implications when money's passing through hands.
You'd have to hire a broker. You'd have to get someone to facilitate it and hold the money and escrow accounts and transactions from capital accounts. And everyone would have to have a capital account with this broker. And, you know, your minimum spend is XYZ. You could structure it as a private equity fund, and just be like, hey, we're private investors. And, you know,
I would
need
need
it that way.
An introvert partner on that one.
You definitely would have. That's why you would outsource it. You'd have to go to a broker, someone that could facilitate it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. And get all the legalese, you know, squared away, all the contracts and, you know, crap like that. You'd have to have an entity around it. You know, you wouldn't want it just to be Michael Whitehouse, personal tax obligation. You'd want to have a full-on entity around it. But your network could potentially do that because you're dealing with a lot of entrepreneurs. Why not take VC fund? And you're hearing a lot of ideas. People are coming to you and referring people to you, and everyone's got an idea that's come because there's a reason why they want to connect with someone. Well, your front row seat in evaluating early on whether it's a viable option, and you could in turn share that with your group and network of these, you know, equity partners, and you guys could make a killing. You can make royalties, you can get percentage ownerships of a lot of concepts, and you guys can collectively vote on what gets funded and what doesn't.
That is an interesting idea.
And if you do this, I want a seat at that table, and I don't want royalties for the idea. I just want a seat at your table.
This idea is going to go on the shelf with lots of other awesome ideas that wander by, but it's an interesting concept because it's just leveraging the large quantity. There's kind of stages of my business. The first stage was stop being an Uber driver and start being a professional networker, which I've gotten past. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But the next stage is getting to the point where I can invest in structure, scaffolding.
Like building, what do you mean?
Well, like a virtual assistant, like technology, courses, people to do things for me. Because that's the point where I can invest money instead of time. Because I only have so much time, and even less, I have less energy, but money can make money. So if I can get to the point where I can take $5,000 and hand it to someone and say, build a course for me, I'll record the stuff, you do the rest of it. And then they build a funnel and put the course in it. And then I find partners who promote it, and that makes money. And that money that gets reinvested into another funnel or a whatever, that's the point when things really start rolling. Because first you invest your time, then you invest your capital. And so once I can capitalize capital, that's when I can, some of these other ideas is like, okay, so what are we doing this quarter?
Okay.
What's the next new project?
Let's give our listeners something really cool to noodle on here. I've got two concepts I'm going to throw at you. And I think it's going to be on the fly, kind of like, how can you make this work? First is you go and create a shell company. You already have one. You add this education component to your site, and you go to Udemy. Wait, what?
I said I need a more dynamic background for this.
Oh, wow. Now I think you're ready for this.
Now I'm ready to receive ideas. Okay, so.
I think you're ready. I'm going to send you this link. You're going to click on it. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of this site before?
I have heard of you. I think I actually have a course up there, but it's terrible.
You have a course up there. Look at you go, man.
It's like
I've already been there and done that, Trent.
Well, no, but I've sold 0 of them. As like I threw some random stuff on Udemy. I'm like, I'll put up for $10 and magic will happen. It doesn't happen.
Okay, that course I sent you is called Personal Business Networking Skills for Maximum Success. It is, it's like, okay, let's see here. Learn how the law of reciprocity can work for you. Powerful networking tools and strategies. Learn the power of likability factor. These are the basic chapters of the program. They've had 57,000 students. I don't know when it was first published, but they're currently offering it at a discounted price for today. It looks like for $17, but it's normally $84. These guys have made over $1.5 million. If you go and watch these videos, you can go to vyond.com and create animated, like almost free. It's really cheap. You create your own animated stories, your own animated content to support what you verbally come up with and say in front of a camera. You could go and record all of your skills like you are doing on all these podcast interviews you're doing, this one included. And you could go out and offer a similar course like this, as long as you're kind of meeting this similar level of quality and full on depth. And you could easily go to Upwork and have someone help you write this and structure the content and build it and even animate it. You literally could be making $1 million off of a, you know, potentially like a $2,000 investment on this, and some time, a lot of time.
I'm pretty sure Udemy never sells full price. So I think this really is a $15 course. I don't think anyone on earth ever paid $85 for it, but
probably, but still, that's almost $1 million. You know, they've had a crap load of students.
Okay. Oh, 57,000 times 15. Yep. That's true.
So, and look at the instructors, right? Good reviews. 37% are 5-star, 38% are 4-star. Pretty killer stuff. You have the personality to do this, sir. And anyone can go to Udemy right now and create a show platform or whatever and be their own professor of any content or material that they're knowledgeable. I just totally slopped that word. And you can make money doing it. That's concept one. I think you should do this. I think you should hit it out of the ballpark and just go and have your EA or hire someone for this project to help take your outline and content creation. And you could even have guest speakers come on. You can even incorporate those speakers or question and answers into the content. And you can offer a certification. It could be the guy who know guys certification.
I like these ideas. I thought about doing a networking certification, but again, it requires a lot more setup, and that's more in that next phase where I have more resources in play.
Yeah.
And ready to go. But
this can't be. This course is only 46 minutes long.
I believe it.
46 minutes long, and they've had $1 million in gross revenue on it. This is the wave of the future. Universities are in trouble.
Yeah, well, because a lesson can be 10 minutes. Yeah. And the way what I'm learning is the way a course like that is structured. 10 minutes of education and then a homework, because the homework where the action happens.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm actually building a course around a keynote speech that I'm writing. The keynote has 3 main pillars, and so the course is going to be 4 weeks long, 4 one-hour sessions. And in each session we do one of the pillars, and then homework.
How are you going to deploy that? Like what platform? On your website or
Zoom? So there's a stage, there's a pay to play stage, and I don't currently have any courses. So I was like, I kind of want, I want to go to this event, but I can't justify paying $500. I can't monetize it. And she said, well, you don't have to do anything fancy. You could charge $97, go on Zoom for an hour a week for 4 weeks and run a course. And I thought, oh yeah, I've got the format because it's a speech I just gave.
Yeah.
And I can say I didn't have a lot of time to go in depth, which is true. 45 minutes to blaze through all these topics. If you want to dive in for $97, I'm going to work with you for the next month and give you actual assignments and accountability to go out and do it, because that's what you pay for. You don't pay for knowledge. All the knowledge in the world is on Udemy, $14, whatever. It's on, and probably everything on Udemy is on YouTube for free. But what you pay for is either things being done for you or accountability. You pay for someone to be there the next Monday to say, how'd it go? Because someone's going to say, how'd it go? And you don't want to say, I was going to.
I think you and I both know that if we didn't have someone text us and follow up on anything, we wouldn't have gotten done majority of what we've gotten done in life to date.
Yep. Yeah. So the way I wrote this keynote speech was I hired a speech writing coach for $1,300. And she taught me she gave me a basic framework, but I probably could have found that framework, free on the internet. Probably could have found it free on her website, frankly. But the $1,300 of value I got was knowing that I spent $1,300. And if I spent $1,300, I better come out of it with a speech because I paid for it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to be like, I'll get to it. I mean, I could have written the speech 6 months ago, 9 months ago. But knowing, okay, I paid for it, that's a commitment. I could have spent this money on other things. I spent it on this. I don't want it to be, in other words, like, spent money and nothing happened. I wanted it to be, I spent money and I got a thing.
You bring up a really good point, Michael, and this is a factor to success, because this is the Success Factor podcast, but this is one. I think so. Wait, are we on your show or my show?
I think we're on your show. Okay, we're on Zoom. Must be your show.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. What do you do on your show?
My show's on Zencaster, but it's only audio. Or my other show is on StreamYard.
StreamYard? I've never heard of StreamYard.
It's live streamed to Facebook, YouTube.
How do you like that?
I like it.
I was listening to you interview this lady recently where you started talking about, I forgot who it was, but like 2 episodes ago, you were talking about the challenges of getting ready for like streaming, things you need to think about.
Yeah, StreamYard is great because it looks really professional and you hardly do anything. So you can click a button, a banner appears. It can do scrolling banners. It can do video. So if you have an intro, you click the video button, it automatically plays over everything. You click on someone's picture and you can make them big and then they go back in the corner. So, I mean, it's not, TV production level, but for something you can pay $15 a month for, it's pretty solid looking stuff.
What now? I see now this is another rabbit or squirrel moment for me, but now I'm going to go down this tangent instead of finishing what I was going to say. And I forgot even what I was going to say to you, but
that's what I had this background for.
Squirrel. Okay. Have you had better engagement going StreamYard route, like live streaming podcast versus professionally editing it and publishing it?
It is a different show. So my interview show is a longer form. And my interview show also kind of lost focus. So I've paused my main interview show because last year it was hugely valuable. It was a show where I interviewed successful people to tell me how they got that way. Then
that was the guy who knows a guy podcast.
Yeah, the guy who knows a guy interview podcast.
Okay.
And that was awesome. And then I was kind of going through various business transitions when I was transitioning seasons. So season 4 was originally going to be about speaking, and then it was going to be about networking. It was going to be a joint venture. And finally it was like, it's about, stuff. And it's kind of a potluck. Now the people on it, most of them are really great guests, but when trying to say, you should listen to my show because it's got a random assortment of people. So
that's what I like about my show. Yeah, that's what I like about what I do. Let's just talk about what success means to you and how are you achieving success and how did you get there? And it's vastly different. Everyone has.
But it's got that focus on success. Like my season 3 was more like that.
Yeah.
And worked a lot better. Season 4 didn't get that focus. But the great thing with the live show is one of the best things about podcasts, you get to meet people and you get to dive in and have conversations. And the way the Power Lunch podcast came about was that I had so many people wanted to be on my show that I was doing 2 or 3 interviews a week and still booking out months. And then I had to post-produce every episode. And I streamlined it, but it's still like there was work to be done. So every one of these interviews, I'm like, and now I'm going to have to do work. So I said, what if I narrowed down the interview podcast, but created this other show that's a round table and it's live. So I could put 4 people on the air at a time and there's no post-production. You hit stop, it's done. It's automatically uploaded. It's there. It has the cover photo. It doesn't go out to the podcast platform. So it's YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I get to meet 4 people at a time. So a lot of people are on the show because I'd meet them through podcast match sites and whatnot. And so then I'd either have to just cold interview them, which I can do, but who knows if they're any good, or I have to have a separate meeting and take more time to meet with them and then interview them. And either way, it takes a lot of time. So I said, what if I put 4 people on a show together? That way, if they're a weak guest, they're not really interesting. Well, there's 3 other people on the show. So it balances out. And it was basically a pressure valve. I had too many people wanted to be on the show. I didn't want to say no. I just created another platform for them. And what it turned out was the show was amazing. I joke that I have 2 producers, serendipity and random happenstance. Because you apply for the show, you go to guywhoknowsaguy.com/powerlunch, and you fill out a form and ask for your bio and what topic you want to talk about and how big is your audience and a bunch of stuff like that. And then which Fridays are you free to be on the show? And you pick some dates. And then I go through and I say, all right, July 9th, who are the first 4 people available July 9th? Boom, 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 boom. Those are the 4 people on the show. All right, who's on July 16th? Boom, 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 boom. I don't look at what they do. I don't look at what their audience is. I just take the first 4 people and put them together. And I've been doing it for 6 months, and I've yet to have a show where I say, oh, when will this be over? Every show has been fantastic.
What do you talk about? Like what's your guardrails for conversation?
Guardrails?
Well, what do you, I mean?
No, so each guest brings a topic. So one is, what topic would you like to introduce? They get about 2 to 5 minutes to introduce their topic. And sometimes we don't get to all the topics. Sometimes we do. Depends on how it flows. But it's usually they introduce a topic. We talk about it for about 10, 12 minutes. And then the next topic gets introduced. And I try to look for patterns. So when there's when something segues in, I'm like, actually, that's a great segue to Trent's topic. Hey, Trent, tell us about this thing. So if there is a segue, I get it. I'm always amazed how often the segues do occur, given this a random assortment of guests. Like anyone who wants to be on the show, if I read their application, it looks like they are, coherent, I'll bring them on, because if they're willing to apply, there's a certain self-selection that they think they're interested enough to be on a show. And I read their description, their bio, and I'm like, okay, this person seems pretty cool. And I bring them on. I've had a few guests who are kind of like quiet and not really engaged, but that's fine. There's 3 other guests. But it works out really nicely. And the really cool thing, and I didn't even think of this when I was putting it together, is when you get on a show normally, you talk your talking points. So most shows are, 20, 30-minute formats. So when I get on a show, I tell my story. I talk about going to Groton, moving to Groton in 2014. I talk about you can be a connector if you set your mindset to it. I talk about maybe how to work networking events, whatever. But it's this, if you listen to 7 podcast interviews I've done, by the 7th one, you're answering the questions for me. You hear the question, you're like, all right, now he's got to tell that story again. You go on the Power Lunch show, and you may be, maybe it's not your topic, but someone's talking about mindset. Someone's talking about investing. Someone's talking about, new age numerology or extraterrestrials or,
they can talk about anything.
And presumably, even though your business might be, your business might be in the finance field, you probably have opinions about nutrition, mindset, the supernatural, spirituality, and those kinds of things. So the guests get to talk about things they don't normally talk about when they're on shows. And a lot of the people who are on there tend to be fairly educated people, fairly knowledgeable. So when they're talking outside of their expertise, they're not just talking out of left field. Like they know something about it, especially say a successful coach who's, a book writing coach. They get into a conversation on mindset, they can hold their own, because if you're successful, you have thoughts on mindset because that's part of how you got there. If you're successful, you probably have thoughts on nutrition and health because, again, that's some of how you got there. Right. So there's a bunch of things that you might not be teaching, but you had to achieve a level of proficiency at because that's foundational. If your mindset's not right, if your health isn't right, if you're, not doing health and wellness stuff, if your spirituality is not right, if your family's not, any of those things will erode the foundation of your business. So all these other things in order to do what you did to become a great book writing coach. So you get on this conversation, you get to talk about these things you know a lot about, but you maybe haven't. What people want bring you to do that?
Where can I listen to this? I want to listen to some episodes.
So if you go to probably the easiest way would be go to youtube.guywhoknowsaguy.com is my YouTube channel, and there's a playlist on there that says Power Lunch live show. I think it's what it is. And most of the episodes are in that playlist, except for the ones which I haven't remembered to put in the playlist because there's no way to automate them going in the playlist.
I'm looking at the videos. So the most recent one looks like Mike Jasalczyk and Michael.
Just out. Yes.
I don't know.
He's a
Okay,
CPA.
cool.
I remember that.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to check this out. Now, there's something I've been noodling on that is very similar to what you're doing here, but with a unique kind of different spin to it. I'm not going to talk about it on the air because I've been kind of noodling on it, but I think you're the guy to do it with me, like co-host it with me.
I do really talking.
I really think you and I could put our heads together on this one and have an amazing platform. So when we're done recording today, stick around for a few minutes and let's talk about it.
Sounds like a plan.
But this is pretty cool. Is it only on YouTube or do you
YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn?
Okay, so because you're publishing from this StreamYard, it doesn't go to podcast land.
Correct. Now I could download the audio. I did once. The funny thing is, if you put 5 people on a call, one of them is going to have an audio artifact.
Totally. And they're going to speak over each other all the time.
Yeah, well, speaking over each other is fine. That just sounds like a busy room. But it's the audio artifact. One of them is going to have an echo or a squeak or a whistle. And in video, you have enough input coming in that you kind of notice it, but you're also looking at the people. There's a lot going on. So a couple of the early episodes I actually uploaded to my podcast feed. And I went to listen to it. And I got 10 minutes in. I said, I can't listen to this. That little like squeak or echo or whatever was so and
cringeworthy. Yeah.
It's an hour-long show where I let people just free flow. And sometimes you have, one has an accent, one's a man, one's a woman, one has a deep voice. And you're like, okay, cool. And sometimes it's 3 women all speaking in the same register and you have no idea who's talking. So as a format, it works really well with video and not so well with audio. But the other thing is, given that there's 4 guests and there's no particular focus, there's no reason to pull out your podcast app, look for this podcast and listen to it, because who knows what's going on this week. Whereas in video, it's more, people live, it works great. Now we don't get a huge audience. We'll have half a dozen, 10 people listening to it. And I think people are dropping in and out and watching different parts of it, but we do get some engagement in the comments, which is really cool. That's why I like live. And the first thing, I always build things from like, what if this doesn't work, what if that doesn't work? So the first thing is we have 4 people on screen together talking and having a free-flowing conversation. Usually by the end of that, and I block out on my calendar the half hour afterwards. So by the end of that, we go off the air, we talk for another 10 minutes, maybe we do a follow-up, maybe someone decides to promote someone's thing, somebody wants to meet, a bunch of connections get made. It's a 5-way one-to-one to begin with. So if nobody watches, we just had a 5-way one-to-one. Great. Then somebody can watch. And I have had, we don't have a huge audience. It's not like, this isn't the Joe Rogan show. It's just not 100,000 people watching. But I have definitely had people reach out to me and say, hey, I really liked so-and-so on the show. Could you connect me with them? And then I make that introduction. I am pretty sure that almost no one who watches the show doesn't know me. I think the people who watch are people who already know me somehow. But the other thing is I don't promote the show as effectively as I could. So I don't send out an email reminding people to watch it and all that stuff, because my capacity for administrative work is limited.
Well, you also have a lot of stuff going on.
I do have a lot, but believe it or not, I pare it down. Like, I'm more selective than I used to be.
How do you manage your time? I mean, this is a good point. Let's talk about that. How are you successful in managing all of this and not going crazy, making your wife go crazy, your kids, or whatever other obligations or people in your life? How do you balance it all?
I feel like you've made a lot of assumptions about people not going crazy.
Well, I'm just trying to, be positive.
Give me the benefit of that. I appreciate that.
And I'm assuming you don't want to air your dirty laundry because everyone goes crazy once in a while.
Yeah, no, I actually no. So, remember that for me about the not going crazy and how I don't go crazy, because that's a whole different thing, which is probably worth talking about in the mindset space. So the way my calendar functions is I systematize as much as possible, because if you systematize, you don't have to make decisions. And that is a great way to deal with executive dysfunction, which sounds like really awful. Like executive dysfunction sounds like you're lying on the floor, not knowing what to do. But it basically means that with ADHD, your capacity to make decisions is, everyone has a number of decisions they can make during a day. It leads to what's called decision fatigue. It's a common thing. It's why people make dumb decisions in the afternoon, because they basically used up all their willpower. ADHD means you have even less of those decisions you can make before your brain's like, nah, you can't do thing. Yeah. So I try to automate as much as possible. This is why I make appointments through Calendly. I don't want to, and it's just a nightmare to futz around going back and forth by email, because by the time you pick a date, oh, that was free, but it's not free anymore.
Yeah.
So not
I totally get it. I use it all the time. Like I have to do that. But
so
keep
now
going.
The downside is, of course, if I make a mistake with it, it trails for 6 weeks. So when I try to fix it, like either I cancel a bunch of appointments off my calendar, or maybe in August we'll get this thing under control. But part of it was learning how I work. I have the most energy and the most willpower in the morning. I'm also the most creative in the morning. By the afternoon, I'm tired. However, I'm also an extrovert, so as long as I'm talking to people, I'm still going good. So my calendar, for the most part, books appointments in the afternoon, not in the morning. Now, some things end up getting booked in the morning, but ideally, I keep my mornings free. So that is when I do all the administrative work that's on my to-do list, which I'll get to in a second. And at the end of last year, I was working 5 days a week and then Ubering 3 days a week.
Wow.
So I was working
and doing everything else. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I actually hit a point of physical breakdown or burnout that I'd never encountered before. Like waking up and saying, I can't get up. I'm not sick. I know I'm not sick. I feel physically healthy. I just can't get out of bed right now. And I think my brain started giving me physical symptoms like sickness. So I would stop. I threw my back out last April, and it was a very pleasant day because I couldn't get up. So I just laid in the backyard and watched videos on my iPad. I got a day off because I was physically incapacitated. So I got to that point of burnout. So in November, I said, all right,
that's crazy.
January, one way or another, I'm taking a day off every week. I'm taking Mondays off. And so I blocked out my calendar. Mondays, day off, because I got to Uber Friday, Saturday, Sunday to pay the bills, and I got to build the business. But the business isn't paying its way, so I don't need to work 5 days a week on a business that's not making any money. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm taking Mondays off. Well, on exactly the week when my schedule was to start those Mondays being off, was the week I started making money in the business and I was able to dial down the Uber. But I had all my Mondays blocked out. And I said, well, what if instead of having it as a day off, I have as a day off meetings? Because there's so many things I want to do but can't do, like building a course. Part of the reason I have a course is just finding the dedicated time to work on it. Or writing email sequences, or all these things you need to do that aren't meetings. Because while I would love to just meet with people all the time, there's other stuff in the business I have to do that's not meetings. So I kept the Mondays for that. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to have a Monday off, I should really get organized, not just kind of do stuff.
Yeah.
So it was then that I started having my what I call staff meetings. So my entire company is me. I would go.
I saw your post on this. That was really brilliant.
So I go to a local restaurant, and I got a coffee and I grilled cornbread, and I've been doing that for 6 months now. Coffee and grilled cornbread. Which is funny. I normally don't eat breakfast. I juice and I drink black coffee because my wife found this diet, which she stayed on for like 4 days, and I'm still doing this portion of it. Because I drink black iced coffee, cold brewed, and juice with kale, arugula, mint, a bunch of stuff. And what I found is by doing that in the morning instead of eating breakfast, or even if I do eat breakfast, I don't get the 2:30 in the afternoon droop. I have no idea why, but I know it works. And I know when I don't do it, I feel it. So every morning I do that, even if I am going to go into the shack and having my morning meeting.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
So, okay, another question for you is how, like, how do you set the expectations with people you're referring other people to so that their expectations are met or they're not feeling like you're abusing that relationship? Like, how do you balance the fact that there's something for that person you are sending someone to has something to gain? It's in their interest.
That's a good question.
Symbiotic.
Which I will answer as soon as I finish the rest of the explanation of my schedule and how I manage it. Is I make a list of everything I need to do that week. I rate it 1 to 10. And of course, nothing's lower than a 5. But anyway, 1 to 10. And then I write it in order from 10, 9, 8, 7. What 10 needs to be done on Monday. Everything else goes in order. And then throughout the week, when I'm like, what am I doing now? Oh, let me pull out my to-do list. And of course, this is Thursday. You will notice that quite a bit of it is not crossed off. But I understand I'm not going to get through all of it. I'm going to do the best I can to get through as much as I can. And then I'll get to Monday and be like, oh, that now needs to be done. That is now a 10. It was a 7 last week. Now it's a 10. I can retrench and re-strategize the week. And yeah, because I tried blocking out like, oh, half an hour for this, an hour for this, half an hour for this. Well, you know, my shower runs long, or I get a phone call, or someone comes to the door. It knocks out that hour. That was a high priority thing, which is why I was first. And now I'm going to spend, 20 minutes bumping everything.
Yeah, and then you have to move everything. Yeah.
So it just flows the calendar. So that's actually been fairly effective because it lets me triage every Monday morning what needs to get done. So, and then the focus of I need to get one thing done. Don't get everything done. So the other thing I started doing, because like you, I bounce around a bit. And so an idea will pop into my head, which is why I have my other notebook. Instead of doing the thing when it pops up, because sometimes I'm going through the tabs trying to find the right tab, and so I got to do this thing. I will write it on the notebook, and I can only do the top thing on the list. So if it's urgent, then okay, that needs to get done now. I'll do it now. But most things like, I should get this done. Let me write on the list, and then I get the top thing done. It probably takes 5 minutes, and then I get the next thing done, and I'm like, I got to do this. I put it on the list. So the list is my outbrain. So my executive function is on the notebook instead of trying to be in my head. Because otherwise you try to do 10 things, you do none of them. An hour's gone by. You're like, what did I do with my time? I answered 4 emails. Instead, check my email. Okay, check my email. That goes on the list.
I mean, whatever works for you, everyone's different. You got to be organized. You got to have some kind of like prioritization method.
Yeah, but that's what's forced me to be more effective. The key thing is it's better to get one thing done than try to get 3 things done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because trying is 0.
Yeah.
So to answer your question about the introductions, so the question was, how do I set expectations and make people feel like not being taken advantage of? So the first thing is, for most of my clients, I'm very, very selective about who I'd take on, who I'm directly referring clients to.
Okay.
Like I have one client who does something super unique. He has a pay per positive response marketing program. I've never met anyone else who does that. You only pay for the leads he generates. He's not selling leads, he's generating leads, and you're getting that exact result, which you pay for. So that's something people say, yes, I do want to talk to him because it sounds like something I want to buy. But other than that, almost all my clients, I introduce partners, not prospects. So it's a very different thing to say you should meet this guy and maybe buy his stuff, as opposed to you should meet this guy and collaborate. So the introductions I'm making are valuable in both directions.
Yeah.
So if I introduce you to, and here's the cool thing. So I'll meet with somebody, and I can't remember if this is this interview or a different interview I was talking about this. I'll say it again. We're well into it. So I'll meet with somebody, and they'll be, and I'll make 3 introductions and refer them to a website. And they'll be like, you've done so much for me, I can't do anything for you. Like, how can I help you? Well, all three of the people I introduce them to are my clients. And the website is something I have an affiliate program with. So it's not that yes, I am taking, but they don't mind. And I'm usually pretty transparent about it. And when they say that, I'll be like, don't worry about it. Two of those people are clients of mine. They pay me to introduce them to people like you. And it's not a take, it's a give. Yeah. So if I'm introducing them, it's because I think they could be collaborative partners, or they could, joint venture affiliate arrangement, which is a lot of the introductions I make, is you could promote Joe, and Joe's going to get some business, and you're going to get 20% of everything he sells from your from your leads or whatever. So you're getting money, he's getting leads, everybody's going to win. The introductions I make are win-win introductions. So serving my clients, meeting with someone else, serves the person I'm meeting with, and they're still getting value. And people don't generally mind if somebody gets, what is even more value. So as I was saying before, most of the meetings I have, I give more value than I receive. But that's fine, because I'm not losing the value. If I introduce you to 4 people, I haven't used up 4 introductions. I've simply made 4 introductions.
See, that's pretty cool. I think that works really well. That's a good system that you have. Now, okay, one last question for you, and I know it's getting late there, and you probably are getting.
And I also did answer the mindset question that you didn't ask, but you alluded to. I
alluded to it. We will get to that.
But
do you want to go there now
before you forget it?
Okay, I'll ask the question before I forget it, because I probably will. Now I forgot it. Okay, it came back to me. Listen, so Michael, you've interviewed a lot of people for your podcast. You have a lot of people you've referred prospects or partners or collaborators left and right, for many years. Thinking about all of that, thinking about everyone you've spoken to, what are the top 2 or whatever, top 1, doesn't matter. What would you say is the top criteria for someone to achieve success in their life? Everyone has a different definition of success. It could be, I want $1 million. It could be, I want to have balancing all these priorities well. I want to succeed in spiritually. I want to grow a business that I own and just cover my bills. Any success criteria that someone has, if it's something that's a growth mindset of something they want to achieve, what are some of the top factors and characteristics that you've seen other people commonly use and put to work to achieve?
This actually ties in the other thing I was going to talk about. So there we go. It all fits into the greater mindset realm. So the first thing that is necessary to be successful is you have to know what you want to do. You have to know what success looks like. And one of the themes I found when I was interviewing all these successful people was most of them had a moment of mindset shift. And at first, as I'm doing this, I'm like, cool, I found the common factor. I don't know how to replicate it, but I found the common factor. That's great. They all did the same thing. I don't know how to do it. They had this moment where they said, I'm going to stop being that and I'm going to be this. And that was a pivot. And for some people, for one of the interviews I did, that moment was basically sitting in his car in the garage with the door down and the car running, with the intention of not waking up in that car, deciding, nope, I'm going to change this now. So the number of people who told me stories about nearly killing themselves and then coming back from that moment and that being their pivot point. But for others, it was some pivot point, some moment of here and no further, we're going that way now. And it was interesting because as I was interviewing them, I'm like, well, this is the most enlightening and frustrating experience I've ever had, because it's find that mindset shift. How do you do it? I am now on the other side of it. I couldn't even tell you exactly when it happened or tell you how it's done necessarily, but it's find that mindset shift. And I think some of it is knowing what you want, knowing what success looks like, and believing it's possible. And for me, it has been finding a path and getting comfortable walking it. So in 2021, I made the decision, I'm if I end up driving DoorDash and Uber for the rest of my life, but I get to coach people and help them make introductions, make their lives better, and that's where I stay, I'm okay with that. That's an okay life. It's not ideal. It's okay. I can deal with that. Now, getting paid to do that's even better. But I got comfortable in that place. I said, I'm good here as long as it takes. Because success is going to be a long road. There is no overnight success. It's going to take months or years, and you have to become comfortable with the process to get there.
Absolutely. I am so glad I asked you this question, and I love your response because I wholeheartedly agree with you. Almost everyone I've spoken to and know has gone through a rock bottom moment where they hit a dark patch in life that is hopeless, depressing, no way out, walls have fallen in, houses on top of me, whatever that is. It could be relationships, it could be money, it could be business, it could be school, it could be pets, it could be jobs. You just go down the health. I mean, the list goes on. And for some reason, and this is like a universal law, I'm convinced, if not, it should be. It is through those pain and agony moments that you are able to rewire your brain and soul. And you are then able to put yourself on a different path and have a different future that you now want to achieve. And previous to those moments, you could have never actually rewritten your brain unless you went through that pain and agony.
I guess I don't actually have that one moment I can point to that was like the dark moment. But I definitely, there was a lot of just kind of like purgatory time when I was kind of like, yep.
And that's what I'm talking about. Maybe it's not like, oh, you all have to almost kill yourself type, moment. I'm talking about something that is painful and uncomfortable for you. And it could be vastly different.
Well, and I think you need some kind of shock to knock you off that track. Because the shock for me was the pandemic. It knocked me out of my old job and into a new space. But there was never a point in that where I'm like, this is awful. I have to constantly remind myself the pandemic was awful for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just not me. It was actually really great for me. Although it was tragic for a million people and their families, and then also everyone else it impacted. But it created that shock moment without having to go through the dark moment. I mean, I've had plenty of dark moments before, but it created that bump to say, okay, start doing what you're meant to be doing, and really driving there. And I think another thing that's hugely important is gratitude mindset, appreciating what you have. Because once I started adopting a gratitude mindset, then that allowed me to really appreciate what was going on. So in November 2020, we bought our house, and I never thought we'd be able to buy a house. And then we got a little boost of money from the pandemic assistance, and my father kicked in a bit, and someone pointed me to a resource to clean my credit up, and suddenly we bought a house, and we're in the house. And 2021, this is when I'm driving DoorDash and
try to pay your mortgage,
barely making things, and my wife would say to, and I'd be like, I don't even know like what we're doing, and she's like, we got the house. I'm like, can we keep it? She's like, yeah. You got us this far. Because I up until very recently, she'd always made more money than me. So I'd sometimes moments of like, am I a failure as a man? Am I a failure as a business? Am I just that starry-eyed dreamer? I don't know if you're familiar with Doctor Who.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Okay.
Am I Rose's father? He was he died when she was young, so she didn't remember that he was just an entrepreneur, an inventor. He never made any money. He just went from failed idea to failed idea. And I'm like, am I that guy?
It reminds me of it's like the guy in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, right? Sweet Toots.
Yeah. Am I the guy who's just going to bounce from failure to failure to failure until I get old enough and don't have any retirement? And she pointed out, she's like, we got this house because of you. Like, yes, I brought the money in. You figured it out. You had the connection. You knew the realtor. You knew the mortgage guy. You knew the guy who introduced you to the credit repair agency. this was all you to make this happen. And at some point, I had this realization of, things are pretty good. And you know what? Yeah, maybe I will screw it up. Maybe we won't be able to pay the mortgage. But right now, things are good. So why would I worry about what might happen in the future when I got this now? And we have a deck in the back of our house that overlooks the woods, which is funny. It's 120 feet of woods with a strip mall on the other side. Which I love it.
Got the woods. Be grateful
to feel natural. And then I can see people and activity, which my extrovert self likes. So it's a great fit. So I would, last year I'd get up in the morning, go out to the deck with a cup of coffee, and just listen to the birds, which are really loud. We have a lot of birds. I just go out and I would, it's the closest I can come to meditating. So I just sit and listen and soak it in, be like, I own this. I have this. This is really nice. Mm-hmm. You know, I have a 400 square foot office that I can set up with a permanent green screen when like everything is, so I mean, it's a mess. It should be cleaner, but I have so much room. It doesn't matter that it's a mess because I've got this. And then I started there. What else do I have? And you know, you hear about all these gratitude exercises, write down everything grateful for. I actually I did that a bit. I think that's part of what jump started me into this, was I started writing on my whiteboard every day, like a bunch of things I'm grateful for. And I was able to write 10, 20, 30 things. And I finally, it became habit. I don't write down my gratitude anymore. It's just, I know, like I've got a lot of blessings. Things are really good. And it's not luck. I did some things that were right, which is good because I can then teach other people. So it's not just like, well, I guess I'm blessed and you're screwed. It's, I'm blessed, and I'm blessed with the knowledge that I can share with people. But
it's your attitude.
Yeah, but the gratitude is hugely powerful, because then when something happens, something goes wrong, then I can go back to that and be like, okay, something went wrong. Is this an existential threat? Am I going to lose my family? Am I going to lose the house? Am I going to lose my health? Am I going to lose, whatever? No. Okay. How upset can I be? And so it's holding on to that gratitude, which then, if you think of it on the spiritual way, energetics and whatnot, gratitude tells the universe, thank you, I would like some more, please. Yeah. It draws it in. If you think of it in the rational way, gratitude keeps you focused on what you want. So, absolutely. So I want security in this house. I want happiness. I want a happy family. I want these things. So when I have them, I am pleased by them. So I'm looking for it more. Yeah. If you're ungrateful, you're looking for problems. You're looking for challenges. Yep. And if you look long enough, you're going to find it.
You'll find negativity anywhere. And if you don't have the gratitude about what you have and who you are and where you're going or what you're doing, and just the sheer fact that you exist and look around you and whatever's around you and whoever's involved in your life, be grateful for that, because that changes your mindset. That helps you have a growth perspective that allows new thoughts, innovations, and concepts to come through and connect with you and give you motivation to act on them too. Yep. And then the other thing I was going to say that you hinted on is living in the present, living for today. Don't live for tomorrow or the past, and let the past dwell in your heart, in your head, and your emotions, and don't get worried about the future, because there's plenty of fear and worry going around in every media every pixels on screen you can look at. There's plenty of it. But if you focus on today and you focus on what you got going good for you today and what your options are today, and be grateful for those options, that's a huge factor to success. I
remember when I was still driving Uber regularly, and things were starting to go well. So like fourth quarter last year, and I was driving 700 miles a weekend and getting I don't know how many, I think 20 passengers, 25 fares, which is probably 40 people. I remember thinking, like, I'm picking people up in all the best and worst cities in Connecticut. And I had this thought of, what if something happened? Like, wouldn't it be so awful if I'm so close to success and I get in a car accident and die, or someone mugs me and shoots me or something? Like I die right now while Ubering. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I can't control that. I can do my best to drive safely. I can do my best to watch the passengers, but I can't control it. If God decides that I'm not coming back from this trip, I'm not coming back from this trip.
Absolutely. You can't control that.
But I've taken appropriate preparation. There's life insurance and whatever. We've gotten the house, and I'm doing what I want to be doing. I'm spending the week connecting people, learning, meeting. It's fun. Ubering is fun. I got to meet people, listen to audiobooks and music, and drive a car at night. These are all things I love doing. So if that happens, then it's going to happen. And if it's not going to happen, given the choice, I would rather it not happen. But I can't decide if it happens or not. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I'm going to let God lead things his way. And I'm going to do the best I can with what I have for as long as I have. Because I always had this idea of like, oh, you wasted time and it's so tragic. You put this into it and you lost that. But then I thought about there's the monks who do the sand art, like, the super, you've probably seen those, the super detailed sand art that they spend like 3 days putting every little thing in. And at the end of it, they just sweep it away.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at it and be like, that's awful. They spent all this time. They should take a picture of it or something. And I finally achieved a level of maturity to understand the whole point is it's not about what you have and holding on to something. It's about the journey you went through to get there, what you learned doing it, what you experienced doing it. And if you can't enjoy the journey, then what's the point? Because it's all journey. You're never done with the journey. So there's no destination. Even if there is a destination, you'd be like, all right, when I make $1 million, I'll win. And then you make $1 million and you're like, talk to most millionaires at about the moment when they discovered they were a millionaire. It probably was an afterthought. It was probably their accountant's like, hey, Bob, you're a millionaire? Oh, I hadn't noticed.
I had a guy on the other day, James Hepner. He's in Canada. And he had a moment like that where he's got the boat, big house, truck, cars, sitting on his porch looking down up and down the street. He's like, everyone's got the same thing. Like, now what? Like, what's the point? And now he's gone through that brain shift experience. And it wasn't like so dark. I mean, he had some, dark days there. You'll have to listen to the episode. I just published it. But it was fascinating because he now is focusing on more meaningfulness, more purpose, more connection and value instead of just like achieving or obtaining X number of benchmarks or whatever it is. There's much more to life than that. The journey that we're on is complex, and it can be fun and educational, and it can be really rewarding spiritually, mentally, emotionally. I mean, it's fun.
Do you know the 7 levels deep exercise?
Yeah. I've heard that before.
Yep. So there's a website, 7 levels deep, numeral 7 levels deep, which actually is a very simple exercise. You start with what your goal is. And I will never forget when I went through this with the coach who was teaching me transformational coaching, Eric Ben-Sussan. And so he's like, okay, so what's your goal right now? What are you focusing on? And I said, get more prospects. Now, in retrospect, this is hilarious because I didn't actually have anything to sell. I thought I did, but I didn't have a solid thing. But my goal is get more prospects. And why is that important to you? Well, because I get more sales. Why is that important? Because I have more money. Well, so we go down, I'd have more money. Money would give me more security. Security would mean I have more freedom and could get more of my time. And if I had more time, I could spend more time with my daughter. And I stopped, was like, wait a minute. I want prospects so I can get time to spend with my daughter. Why don't I just not spend time prospecting and spend that time with my daughter? And it's like a mind-blowing epiphany. And I'm like, oh, my goal is I don't need prospects. I don't even really need more money. I need more time. And my time is not currently converting to money. I'm making my money on the weekend. So I don't need to work in the evening. I'm going to stop at 5 o'clock and give her the evening. Or I'm going to spend Saturday morning. You know, I don't need to catch up on the stuff Saturday morning when I'm going to be going out Ubering Saturday night. I can use that time for something else, because ultimately at the end of this, I'm trying to get more time freedom anyway. Why don't I just take the time freedom now? And everyone should go through that 7 levels deep exercise on what they think they're trying to do before they do it. Because otherwise you end up with the boat and the big car and the big house. And you're like, why did I get this? Like, because if he'd done that ahead of time, he would have realized none of that mattered. I mean, you know, I think my next car will probably be an electric car because it just seems really cool. But I drive a Honda Civic right now, and I'm perfectly happy with it. And
that's awesome.
Expect to drive it for the next, you know, until I'm able to get something electric, because that seems really cool. But I don't need a car to show off with. I need a car to show up with. Like, I need to be like, get places.
Yeah.
But you know, our house is not nice, but it's big, and that's what I wanted. Like, it has space. Space means we can do stuff. We can host people. It's the previous owners did a lot of DIY work. So if you're like a real house aficionado, you'd be like, your house is crap. But I don't care. It keeps the weather outside and the air in, the animals inside, and you know, the electricity is constant. The water flows, and there's a lot of room to do stuff. And that's what matters. It's not about a house that can be like, look at my house, it's beautiful. It's okay. But it's, what can I do with the house? What is the house as a tool? What can the car do? My Honda Civic gets good gas mileage, rides comfortably, is very efficient, is very reliable. It does what I need a car to do. I'd rather have the Honda Civic than an Audi A6, because the A6 is probably less reliable, definitely less fuel efficient. It's going to cost more, and then I don't have money for other things. So
that's a good point.
I got to everything is what it can do for you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And actually, along those lines, so a lot of people, one of the big, especially in America, a lot of people, they're concerned about, like, I don't think I'm attractive. I don't think I look.
Oh, yep. Images, social media is not helping that.
So when I was in high school, I thought I was a funky looking dude. But as I improved my game, shall we say, I had a substantial amount of success with the gender of my preference, which happens to be women. And one day I realized, what is attractiveness for? It is for impressing the sex of your preference. So given that women seem to like me, it doesn't matter what I see in the mirror, because I'm not trying to pick me up. I've already got me. So if they're responding well, I must be attractive. It'd be like if someone lifted a 1,000-pound boulder and said, I'm not that strong. You can lift a 1,000-pound boulder. What is strength for? Lifting things. If you can lift things, you're strong. You know, attractiveness is for the things attractiveness is for, getting those positive reactions. You're getting the reactions, you're attractive. Now, if people look at you and go, then you might not be attractive. The irony is, of course, confidence is attractive and insecurity is not. So you get otherwise attractive people who are blasting insecurity, and thus their attractiveness goes down because they don't think they're attractive. But it's true of so many things. Everything is about what it can do. Nothing matters for itself. Like, a house is just a bunch of, you know, wood and nails and plywood. It doesn't matter what the house is. It matters what the house can do. It matters what your car can do. It matters what your face can do. All the rest is just, you know, theoretical constructs.
That's so true. And I think a lot of people need to remember that, and they need to focus on that. It is something that I think is plaguing our society, and in large part from social media influence, where it's an illusion of perfection or beauty, or you keep competing with Photoshop and filters, and you know, you'll never measure up to an AI, you know, filter. You just won't. Embrace who you are, love who you are, and put your skills and talents and, you know, things you're blessed with to the best good that you can. I think that's
although I'd say I can compete with those AI filters, because I've never had an AI filter take a girl from me. So bring it on.
Well, AI you got the Jay Leno look going.
Yeah, so I do have the Jay Leno, yeah.
You got the white hair look, you know, the nice smile. You're kind of like got a good personality vibe coming out of your image. Like, I can see you not struggling there.
Yeah, but again, a lot of it is the energy. What's funny is part of the reason the Jay Leno vibe is because my jaw doesn't attach properly.
Oh, really?
So my chin is forward by like 1/4 of an inch. And when I was younger, I used to lock, which was really fun. Like you yawn, it doesn't close again.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But it's actually it's out of alignment. So my teeth don't quite meet properly.
Yeah.
So again, that could be something where I'd be like, oh, my face is all messed up. My jaw doesn't even attach to my skull correctly. I'm a mutant. You know, you look at my teeth, like my front teeth or my lower teeth are in front of the top teeth. So there's things I could look at and be like, oh, that's so imperfect. You know, my chin sticks out. And then people see that and be like, wow, you have such a strong chin. I always thought it's like my jaw doesn't attach to my head.
And
correctly.
a Jay Leno look, which is
notorious. So I got like, you know, Jay Leno, Bruce Campbell kind of thing going on, which is, if I lean into it as, okay, this is what I have, how can it be good? When I'm coaching people, I'll often say, whatever the weaknesses you came to me with, how can that be a strength? So if someone, like, for example, one of my greatest strengths is not being good at much. If I had a marketable skill, I would not be a great networker. I'm a great networker and I'm a marketable skill. I had to figure out how to make networking my business. Because if I was a great financial advisor or juggler or graphic designer, I'd have a graphic design business and I'd just network on the side. But instead, because I don't have that marketable skill, my networking became the superpower and is now taking me to places graphic design never would. So, but I could see that as a weakness. Instead, I always say, how can your weakness be turned into a strength? You know, think about kids. Kids are small and weak and frail and delicate. And they can do anything because they're kids. So like they're cute, they're harmless, and like, but you know, you could look at that either way.
It's true. You know, I appreciate you coming on the show, Michael. This is good. You're good. You got good vibe, good energy. You're putting forth good skills. You're fun to talk to. You know, I like your perspectives. It seems like you're doing really good. You know, you're making a lot of people happy, and you're giving them value with something that you previously didn't really know was valuable. And you've turned something from a talk about gratitude. You know, you became grateful for that skill and that ability, and you turn that into the ability to create opportunity, wealth, or connection and value for other people, while also covering your living expenses and creating value for your family. I like what you're doing, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. It's been great to be on.
A lot to think about. Where could people, well, I think you already showed it on your first background, but why don't you throw out your sites, you know, where people can, there you go, change your background. But throw out your sites where people can, you know,
absolutely
find you, book you.
The best way to connect is to go to guywhoknowsaguy.com right there. And there's a few there's a lot of things you can do there, because I just pile things on that webpage. The first thing you should do is not judge that webpage as a designer, because I'm not a designer. But what you can do is you can get my book. So you can get my book, The Guy Who Knows a Guy, that tells my story and gives you kind of the basics. Pretty much everything you need to do what I do is in that book. You'll have to do a little bit of work because the book's a little old. But everything you need to become a connector like I am is in the book. And if you put your email address in the website, I'll give you the book for free. That's awesome. In addition, if you heard about that networking concierge thing and say, I could use a networking concierge, then you click the button that says, let me talk to you about being a networking concierge. And you get my calendar there. And the third thing you can do there is you can get my virtual, open virtual coffee, because I mentioned the state of my calendar. So I created an open virtual coffee, 10 a.m. every Friday morning. Anyone can pop into that Zoom room and talk to me about anything they want to talk about. So it's an open place to drop in. Sometimes it's just me. Sometimes it's me and 10 people. Sometimes they talk to each other and I just sit back and watch. Sometimes I make connections. I never know what's going to happen Friday morning. But anyone can go to the website and get right there and get access to the open virtual coffee, which is another one of those cool things. So, and plus you can find whatever else I put on my website that I forgot is there. That's cool. And then tell me it's there and I'll remember.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you, especially staying up later and recording another episode late into your evening. Thank you again, Michael. We're certainly going to be in touch.
Very good.
Hey, thanks for tuning into today's episode. I greatly appreciate your support. If this show is helpful to you and you're learning and you're growing through this amazing content that I'm capturing, then please go ahead and to podcasts, to Spotify, to YouTube, and all the other channels and like, subscribe. Please provide a rating or a comment, and then also share with your friends if you could. I would appreciate it. It helps this show continue to grow, and it helps me be able to attract some truly amazing guests that can come on and give us some great insight, great knowledge, and wisdom that all of us can learn from. Thank you for being a supporter. Thank you for being a listener. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all that you do. Thank you.